Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. We're not the only one you need. You are. We just show you how to get out of your own way. With your host, speaker, author, business coach, and consultant, David Dubé.
Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. It's your host, David Dubé. So excited to have you here with me today. In this episode, my friend, we're going to talk about learning better and faster and how to optimize yourself for learning and better recall. So I've broken this actually into two segments. So in the last episode, we talked about, the 4 types of styles for learning. And I said that in this episode, I was going to talk about those 4 styles and break down learning into those 4 styles. But instead of that, what I've actually done is I put this into the prepping yourself, the planning for it, and the post-learning. So these are the 3 things I'm going to cover in this episode. And then the final episode, a part of this, in episode 52, is going to be the specifics for the 4 styles, the 4 learning styles. So in this, I want to talk about how to optimize yourself for learning and recall. And we're going to talk about what to do first. The first things you should do in order to optimize yourself best when it comes to learning. So first thing you want to do is you want to reduce stress. You want to de-stress and decompress, because if you have something on your mind, if something's taking over who you are, you're not going to learn anything anyway. You're going to be focused on other things. I'm guilty of this all day long, often, and I'm sure you are as well. And so we want to get out what we need to get out. One of the things I recommend doing is writing down what's on your mind now. Get it out of you. Maybe you use an audio recorder on your phone and just speak the audio, speak it out of you, or tell someone to get it out of you so it's not inside of you. So you can reference it after you've learned and then go back to thinking about it and dwelling on that. But get it out of you so it's not in your head, confusing you, preventing you from doing what it is that you need to do, which is learning. So in order to, other options for reducing stress is going to be meditation, yoga, breathing exercises, those types of things. Sleeping, so taking a cat nap. If you're really tired, don't go into learning. You're not going to consume anything. In fact, a good example of that is the other day I sat down at my computer because what was I going to do? I was going to record an episode, and I sat down, and one of the first things I do is when I sit down at my computer is I pull up my email and I go through my email, and I'll put either some form of audio on, but I'll open up YouTube and I'll just play audio in the background. And I was going through my email, just listening to the audio, I literally started to fall asleep at my desk. And I decided, that's it. I can't do this. This isn't the time for this. So I shut my computer down and I went and did something else. So I needed to cut myself off and get away. I could have taken a cat nap, but I didn't. I decided to do something totally different anyway. Other things to do is to eat a snack. And one of the best things to do is, and if you're going to eat a snack, is eat a healthy snack or a healthy meal. Something like nuts, something with fatty acids in it. So walnuts, nuts, those types of things are really good for your brain to get ready to start processing information. Another thing would be trying to think of what they call that morning coffee where you put the butter in it. Some of you probably know what that is. Anyway, that's another way to do that, is to get that, those fatty acids into your brain ready to function. Drink lots of water. Water is vitally important to our survival, but it's also important for the brain to function appropriately. So drinking plenty of fluids. Now, fluids, especially water is an interesting thing because most people, we drink either bottled water or tap water, neither of which are active water. The water's not alive anymore. So one thing I recommend doing is researching and studying activated water or water that's alive. So you can do research on that, but that transforms your body in general because you're actually filling it with live water instead of this stale, not moving water. And there's a huge drastic difference between those. Anyway, that was a little side note there. work out, do some exercise prior to either, whether it's getting your day started, it will prep you for the day in a much better way and get you ready to learn. Stretching is also important. Stretch out your body, stretch your neck, do some stretches to get the blood flowing into your body before you go into learning. It's about the improving of blood flow. It's important for the brain to be active and actively working appropriately so you can be really ready for it. Go out into nature. Go take a walk. Ground yourself. Take your shoes off and put your feet on the bare ground and ground yourself before going and learning. And then lastly, when it comes to that, is learn how to learn. There's multiple methods of learning out there. Learn how to learn. So this is like the optimizing yourself before learning and reducing the stress is doing those things first. Now let's go to planning for it, planning for learning. Now there's anchor points that we all have when it comes to learning. And so some of this is established in that. Some of it is just general information. First is understand every skill is learned. Repetition is the mother of learning, doing it again and again and again. So plan for that. Set a goal. What is your goal? Understand your motivation for learning and figure out what that motivation is. What is it you're really trying to get out of this learning? And then set an agenda for it. Set the agenda, what you're going to do, how long you're going to do it, those types of things. And then also set constraints for yourself. One thing is yes, there's a free reign society. We have the rights to do what we want, when we want, how we want it, that kind of thing. But set constraints, set limits for yourself as well. Don't just, you have an ultimate goal to learn this, but don't just dedicate a whole day, a whole week necessarily to it unless you're doing an immersion technique, unless that's really the purpose here, because you have a finite goal and a finite amount of time for it. But if you're just learning something new like a language, but set constraints on it so you can measure your growth with it. And I'll get to that in the post-learning portion of this as well, because it's applicable there as well. Set up support for yourself. We surround ourselves with many different people. Sometimes family cheers us on. Sometimes family doesn't cheer us on. Know who's going to be your cheerleader and who's not going to be your cheerleader in your learning experience of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and cut those people out who don't need to know it, who don't need to hear about it, because maybe they just don't support you in what it is that you're doing and the methodologies you're going about it. So don't let them in on it. They don't have to know about it. So you cut those people out who are going to cut you down, and then set up the support that's going to be there to help you. Whether that is a friend or whether that's a family member, find someone or a group of people who are there to support you. Sometimes they're your Facebook friends and not actual people you've met in person, but they're people who share the same common interests as you. Seek them out and have them be your support when it comes to learning something new. Then immersion. Immerse yourself in it. Now, when you set constraints, let's just say you're learning a new language, setting 30 minutes of dedicated time just for that, nothing else, just for that. And being well immersed in what it is that you're learning and just focusing on the one thing, nothing else, just the one thing, is going to help you learn it quicker than multitasking your learning and learning multiple facets of one thing again and again. So by doing that and taking a dedicated, focus-driven path to learning it, you'll get there quicker. Find the right music. Studies have been done again and again and again on types of music that is appropriate and helpful when it comes to learning something and cognition of that learning. So when you find that right music, and a lot of it is like classical music or ambient music, listening to that is going to help warm your brain up to learning specific things, or really almost anything. But finding the right music that you can listen to as a background to what it is that you're learning is going to help you not only learn it, but also can help you in cognition of it later on. So that's also important. Manage your surroundings. Where are you? Where are you going to be when you're learning this? Are you at a library? Are you in a busy cafeteria? Where are you going to be? Know where you're going to be and where you're going to dedicate yourself to learning this new information. So cut out things that are going to be distracting to you, like your phone, like people who want your attention all the time. If you have little kids that are going to be coming into your office or, needing something from you, make sure that they're taken care of before you go and cut those people out so you can focus on doing this. Make sure that those things are taken care of so you can dedicate yourself to what it is that you want to learn. Warm your brain up. Do something that's going to warm you up to learning what it is. Maybe it's listening to an audio piece that gets you into the mood of it, or reviewing what you learned last time to go into the new session. So what did I learn last week that's going to bring me into this session here? So you get a recap of what you just learned before going into what you are going to be learning. So you have a refresher of what just was, so you know what you're going into. Find a friend, an accountability partner, a learning partner, someone who's going to maybe learn the same thing or learn something similar to what you're learning that you can go back and forth. Or maybe it's someone who already knows it and they can help you later on, which I'll get to in the post-learning portion. Focus. And I talked about this when it came to immersion. One thing at a time and just focus, focus, focus. Some of us, it's very difficult to focus because our minds are always moving on something. This is where the meditation, the breathing techniques, things can help you to focus in and just choose one, make it into a bite-sized learnable chunks if possible. Now, if you can't, you can't. But being able to do that is going to also help you learn quicker. Now, use diverse media types. So depending on who you are, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in the next episode rather, where, depending on your learning style, you're going to focus more on some of these than you are others. And some of us are hybrids when it comes to our learning styles, and we can use multiple layers from other learning styles and use those for ourselves because we feel that they work for us and they help us learn. So, I want you to understand that when I go over that, it's not these are specific and only visuals should do this and only auditory should do this. No, you can do any number of them, but they're in the category of the learning style for the reason that they work typically best for that learning style. That doesn't mean they're not going to work for you at all. So knowing that, right? Find the right tools that are going to work for you when it comes to learning, when it comes to your style of learning, because we're all different. And it's good to find your specific style that's going to work best for you. So using diverse media types, whether it's video like YouTube videos or audio like podcasts or books on audio, things like that, having the access to them and try them all. So if there's a training video that's available, watch the training video. But if you can also download the audio and listen to the audio, listen to the audio. Find out which one you like better and use the one you like better. So then searching out tools, what additional tools can you use? What other, Google information on what it is that you're trying to learn and see what other modalities are out there for that learning, for whatever it is that you're trying to learn. So seek out the other tools, seek out other people who are experts in that field, seek out, all the information out there and find out which one best relates to who you are as an individual so you can plan to learn to what's best for you. So that goes to the finding other content that relates to it. And then lastly, establish consequences. Is it free will society? Sometimes it's easy for us to just give ourselves the okay to not do anything and to be okay with not doing anything. But that doesn't help us. That really doesn't aid us in furthering ourselves. So create a consequence for not achieving what it is that you want. Find something that's going to, or someone, once again, to hold you accountable for what it is that you're doing. Some of that is finding a mentor. Some of it's just finding a learning partner or a parental figure who's going to establish consequences for you for not succeeding when you want to. Now, let's talk about post-learning, what to do after you've learned, right? So test yourself. So in an accountability partner or in someone who already knows this information, have them test you on what it is that you just went through. If you're taking a course, see if there's testing available at the end of that course so you can make sure that you do know what you learned, know what you know. There's something called productive failure I want to talk about. Productive failure, so they did a study of students that were given problems to solve and they weren't given any aid. They weren't told how to solve it. There were no teachers that gave them any solutions, didn't walk them through a problem before giving them this problem to solve. And even though it was a massive amount of failures in solving that, I don't believe anyone did solve the problems that were given, but the results of not given any of that later on helped them much better solve problems that were given to them, right? It's like in my case, my mother passed away, right? I wasn't given a manual on how to deal with what happens when someone so close to you passes away, what you need to do, what you need to know. No one gave me a guide to it. But now if something were to happen to another sibling or a family member, I would know what to do because of what I went through, right? So kind of productive failure is what I went through. There were a lot of challenges that came up. Challenges I wish I knew the answer to prior to, because I wouldn't have had the issues I had. One of them was actually an email I got this morning, ironically, on the mortgage company reclaiming my mother's property. We've given them notice that we have all the information, everything that they need to claim the property as of a year ago, and yet they sent out an email talking about eviction notices to me that I got today and had to call them and say, hey, here's the deal. We've been contacting the mortgage company to tell them we have all this. So I guess you're the representative that now knows. Here you go. So it's one of those things, productive failure. You don't know until you know. So another thing post-learning is teach it to someone else. Teach it to someone else. I just learned something. The best thing for me to do is to actually teach someone else that reinforces what I just learned, which is a pretty awesome thing. So teach it to someone else. Another thing to do is find another way to learn it and find another way to teach the same thing. So whether that's through storytelling of some sort, you create a story for it, or you find a homonym or synonym, or you find another way to integrate what you just learned to teach it to someone else, is going to also help you reinforce what you just learned. Also, looking at it from another viewpoint, which comes to this next point, which is question what you learned. Question what you learned. So this is something that I find to be extremely interesting, is most people, we accept things as it is. We accept what we learn often as this is it, but that's not always the case. So question what you learn. And this comes to, there's a word for it. It's called metacognition. And it's a concept that's been around a really long time, since the time of Aristotle. And it's a concept of, understanding the material, but understanding it how you understand it. So like stepping back, there's your first impression of it, and then question your own knowledge of it, and then evaluate whether, and how you're digesting the material. Is it the right way? Is it the wrong way? Are you looking at it? So it's how you look at the same material, but look at it in a different way. Look at it in a different light. So metacognition, question what you're learning, and also question how you're learning it. Next is repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning. So you learned it, you went through it, now do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Like I'm an artist. In high school, I was that guy who every day when I went to school, people were like, what did you draw? They wanted to see the next piece of art that I had created, which would forcibly, both because I enjoyed it, but also because I wanted something new to show everyone. Here's a new drawing. Here's a new illustration. So every day I had a new piece of art that I'd bring to school because that was how I was getting appreciated by those around me and how I was getting noticed by a lot of people as well. So I was that guy, but I didn't start off being an amazing artist. I sucked at art. And when I look back at my drawings from when I was, really young, it looked like crap. But the difference is I kept drawing. I kept working at my crap. And eventually it didn't look as much like crap, and it looked better and better and better. Finally, towards when I stopped drawing on a consistent basis, it looked really awesome. Great art. So do it again and again and again. Repetition is the mother of learning. This is how it gets in and seeps into the subconscious mind, where it becomes automatic. And when you can have something that becomes automatic to you, you can just do it and it's done. Finally, lastly here is break down what you just learned. Break it down into the simplest, smallest portions. The one thing I find that a lot of people who teach don't really do that well is they don't break it down to the smallest component. Because when you break something down to its smallest component, you actually find out the engine that makes it work. And when you're able to find out what the engine is that makes it work, you actually make it work a lot better. And you can focus then on those things that make it work. And all the other stuff tends to be fluff and it falls away. And so now you're working with the meat and potatoes that makes it work. And if you're a vegan, whatever vegan you're eating, right? Whatever vegetable or plant-based, whatever you're focused on, instead of meat, it's maybe your potato. So break it down to its smallest component, and that typically is the leverage that makes all other things work. So when you can do that, you can explode your learning. You can become automatic at it by breaking it down to its smallest component. So that is all for this episode. In the next episode, once again, I will be breaking learning into the 4 learning styles. And I'll be giving that to you then. So that's it for this episode. If you're not already subscribed, do so. And if you are on iTunes, please rate us. I would love to get your more ratings on iTunes. That'd be absolutely huge for me. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you like this content, if you thought this was valuable content, share this out. Let other people know this stuff exists. Share this with them. I greatly appreciate it. I'm David Dubé with Only One You Need Radio. It's time that you be the person you're meant to be, believe in all that you're capable of, and become more than you thought imaginable. I look forward to catching you on the next episode. Take care.